My view on the Kibra affair, as I had said in my earlier contribution. First, I've been asking myself, even as the discourse goes on, are we helping the cause, or are we helping the country in this discourse? In my view, it doesn't help the situation does not even portend or even give us an opportunity to have a better future. One, I want to be clear on this debate that I believe, from all the actions that I saw and witnessed myself, my party, Jubilee, did very, very well in the campaigns all the way until the last day of the election. That is before the voting day. ODM did very, very well until the last day during the voting. And if you ask everybody on this panel, we are also children of that process. We are byproducts of that process. And if you went and looked at Boni Khalwale or Jacoyo Midiwo during his elections, or Chariot, or any of us here, on election day, go with your cameraman and interview Otiende Amolo. The last thing you want after all the campaign, after all that you have done, the last thing you want is interference. That's the last thing you want. Indeed, you pray that everybody can stay away and leave people to come and vote on their own. And they make the decision because you have had the opportunity to go around, you have campaigned, you have sold your policies, you have come with your party leaders, you have done everything that is humanly possible for you to get elected. On that day, if it were you know, the departure I find, that's why I said, are we helping the cause, which I don't believe that we are. The departure is when we are talking about another person, ourselves as leaders, because you're talking about somebody else's election, not yours. But if you put yourself in your shoes or replay if it is you during your own election, what do you do? What do you want? And what is good for your people? Indeed, I believe the way to go. And that is why we should be focusing on IEBC itself. Before even focus on ourselves, to ensure that they uphold, they play to and adhere to the law. And then secondly, also, to ensure that those mandated to take action. Because at the close of campaigning day, or the campaign period, everybody is supposed to retreat. That is why you have that window. Go and campaign, say all the things you want to say. Give everything you want to give, start projects, do what, sell your manifesto, but when the bell is rung and campaigns have stopped, everybody is supposed to exit the arena. And now let the people decide. That's the story. You see, but this other story you're hearing that, you know, a team of all of us went there, Otiende Amolo and his whole group all came to defend, that is all wrong. That is all wrong. And that is why, indeed, what we are playing around with now is a potential disaster in 2022, if we let it go that way. Because we are quickly usurping all the mileage we've gained in reforms, in electoral reforms. We should be advocating that come even 2022, the story we should be selling is that we want elections that are not only free and fair, but where that are not interfered with. The way I long for the ball, when we will have an electronic voting system, that you can even sit in your house and press a button and say, I want to elect Boni Khalwale, after he has sold his manifesto, after you have believed in him. And then that way you're going to start to get right leadership. You see, most of the time, go to your village today and ask people, what is your biggest problem in this area? I've seen it in Kiambu myself. We have been victims of it so many times in leadership. Because once you are through with the election, then you have terrible leadership. You've got a failing economic planning. You've got a failed policy for leading in the county. You've got a lot of bribes to members of the county assembly and so on. When you ask people what is the problem, they will revert to the same thing. Okay. When we went to the election, the man we elected was not our choice. But because Otiende Amolo, because Chariot, because Khalwale, they came here, they sang songs of praise, they said this thing, they dressed this man in red or in yellow, and they said, then we elected the man thinking he was going to lead. At that time, the hypnosis around the campaigns deviates and takes away the people's mind and attention to electing a good person. And that's what I'm saying, that we must respect the electoral process. And I believe as a responsible leadership, and especially in this panel. That's what we should be advocating for. Otherwise, we might be pointing and playing to this gallery and talking about the others. We will be victims of it.
Right. So, Aaron Cheruiyot, do you think, from your own assessment with the Kibra by-election, has it also exemplified and exhibited, the fissures within the NASA coalition and the Jubilee party? That now this maybe is a crunch time that these parties or these coalitions actually now should, it's coming unglued? From your assessment?
I think largely NASA, because you can't say Jubilee. I mean, when you say Jubilee, who are you talking about? Minor commander, a nominated member of parliament. Who is minor commander in the rank and file of Jubilee? He's a nobody. But when you talk about NASA, you're talking about, first of all, I don't think it would have been wrong for SL's party leader and ANC and ODM to simply compete. That is not worrisome, because that is the essence of democracy. And even in the main general election, they competed against each other. But the problem is the kind of things that they said to each other. You must remember, you guys are talking about Boni Khalwale being stoned. The ANC leader, a key principal in NASA, was equally stoned 2 weeks to the election day in that Kibra. SL's party leader also faced the same wrath. And I guess that is why after that they never actually went back to that particular region. I think even the reason why there was a poor showing by SL's party is because of the violence that was meted out on them while they were campaigning, and they felt that it's no longer safe for them to delve into that particular part of the world. So if there is a political formation that has suffered the brunt of this politics and has completely been disembarked, of course it was dead. I think now it's completely buried. That is NASA. When you see even, for example, what is Raila saying to Kalonzo when he goes and picks people from his community who are, one, against his leadership, and two, have been out on an onslaught against him. I think he's sounding a warning to Kalonzo and telling him, by the way, we can do away with you. We think that Mutua, Governor Alfred Mutua, fits the bill. So in my humble opinion, I think NASA went into this thing dead, but now they came out completely buried and forgotten. That is my simple assessment. And because now you've said we just want to make something, there's something that I wish to remind, because I see people sometimes try to remind us that, oh, you're not as vocal as this. Say, for example, in 2017, play all the clips when you were here during the difficult days that we used to be here, even with Miguna, on the kind of things that I personally used to say against the violence that was being meted out on NASA supporters. I can never support police brutality. I said it then, and I'll say it now. Violence is never the way. We need to get to a point, and my good friend Jacoyo, having lived in America for all those years, the thing you need to advocate for is not that when you see a particular wrong, you write it as citizens. There is no country in the world where citizens have tried to write anything and they have a country. You have countries like Syria, you have Iran, you have Afghanistan, where citizens have tried to do the things you're saying and they have ended up in that way. What you should be advocating for is a situation where, for example, when America last went to the elections, there was very valid reason on the credibility of that election, where the Democrats believed strongly that somebody had interfered with the electoral system. But did you see them pour out in the streets? Did you see them try to burn effigies and stone people? They followed the due process. That is what I'd wish that we advocate for. It is good to point out the wrongs. It is good, for example, to speak so passionately against voter bribery as we do. And I agree with you. Money, for those of us who are practicing politicians and do not have much of it, we'd wish to get to a point where money is no longer a key factor in politics. That's a true north of our politics, where it is about ideas, it is about how you can transform the lives of people.
Right.
But we can advocate for that and not use violence as a counter.
Right. Okay, so this is bringing forth officials, as I said. Also, we can see this particular statement that was pronounced by Mudavadi on the grounds as well, that Raila is the biggest political burden to Kenyans, and he's threatening also to sue Raila because of him adversely mentioning him during the Goldenberg scandal as well. Why is it really coming up right now? Is it providentially appropriate now for him to bring these things? All over the years, he's never really mentioned Raila on this as well. So is he a political burden? Let's just hear from Otiende Molo. Maybe you want to react on what was said before we actually head with this particular, so that we can open this particular debate as well.
Dr.
Moving forward,
yes. Said a lot of things, and Aaron said a lot of things, obviously out of bitterness, which I understand.
Why?
They were ranting and raving on a number of things. But I think What has annoyed Aaron and Boni most, I don't think it's the issue of what they're calling violence and all that. I think it's the 1.2 billion that was spent in Kibra, for which there was no show. And I think if you look at the number of votes gotten, I think one of my colleagues translated it to about 109,000 per vote received in Kibra. That is not return for money. And I think that's what's really annoying them. Okay. Because otherwise, why would they be weeping louder than the bereaved? The candidate of Jubilee conceded defeat, has not uttered or said any of the things they're saying here. Why are they bitter more than the candidate? It's because of the money. Now, two things. And before Boni came here, I said, and I repeat, that as leaders, we should be very careful what we say. Because what we say, even on this show, can amount to provocation. I said, and I gave example of some of what Dr. Boni Khalwale, what some of the Jubilee leaders have been saying leading to the elections. It provokes. It provokes even now, when you have a leader like Boni Khalwale now calling the resident of Kibra uncircumcised young men. How he knew the circumcision status of a person in those grounds, I don't know. When you have leaders like now Sudi on page 30 of the Star calling Raila a devil worshipper. You know, these things you keep saying, they come back to you because you will be going there to seek votes and they will remember what you say. In fact, I'll tell Boni that, you know, in my culture, there's no way any Luo would have attacked you because you are still in mourning. A Luo by culture cannot attack anybody who's in mourning for 60 days at all, because it's what we call chira, you know. So he wouldn't. Secondly, and let's examine this, let's not mislead you know, the listeners and viewers about violence. There was no violence in Kibra in the sense in which now they're trying to portray it. There wasn't. And I've just told you, one, that if you look at any of those clips, and there were, you know, reporters everywhere, the only thing you will see is of some scuffles in some stations of people who are suspected to have carried money who wanted to bribe. And in all those instances, they were handed over to the police. The only other thing you will see are instances like Dr. Boni Khalwale, and Aaron has not disclosed whether he moved anywhere beyond Joseph Kangete. Those who were not accredited agents, and Dr. Boni Khalwale, you were not accredited. You did not have that badge. And if you are accredited, you would have been at a station like Aaron was saying in Joseph Kangete. There is nobody who's accredited to roam. What Jubilee was doing is that it chose to have leaders who are roaming without even being agents, including your candidate, who is not a voter, but was roaming in all the stations. When he came to the station where I was, and some of our boys wanted to protest who had voted and the ladies, but I told them, no, it is okay. Let him just walk around and then he leaves. And he left. Nothing happened to him at Old Kibra. And I've told you, and you can confirm this, you can call Honorable Koros to the show. We were with him. He was the Jubilee agent. There was no violence. If you say that there were instances of violence or voter intimidation, you should show even one clip. You will not see any of that. I think we should be fair. You know, Aaron, if you are in Joseph Kangete and you are the agent and you are saying there was violence, by now we'd have seen any sign. Where is it? Were you attacked? Were you beaten? You are safe here with us. You know, I passed by Joseph Kangete at one point, to remember, when you were 12 of you. There's no way you'd have been 12 leaders who are accredited as agents in one station. So let's not push this false narrative. The truth is that there was a plan to buy voters on that day. The truth is the voters in Kibra foiled that plan, and there's nothing wrong with that. I condemn violence the same way I condemn voter bribery. Okay. But when therefore you are threatening and there's danger of voter bribery, there's nothing wrong with the citizens arresting those people under the citizens' arrest and handing them over to the police. That is what I said when I was on the ground. That is what I would repeat. Not violence. But you must protect your vote. Now, on what's going on right now, that headline of the Standard and I think also the Star, I think Dibal, it was last year after the handshake when I said there was definitely going to be political tectonic movements. And we are seeing them. It is not just NASA. It is true that it's also in Jubilee. And what is true is that once the BBI report has been released and once it's let out to the public, I think those movements are going to crystallize. it is going to be clear who's on which side. And once it is clear, I foresee that moving towards the change of the constitution in terms of a possible referendum. It is clear that those who would be, and who are already opposed, like Dr. Boni Khalwale, to a report they don't know, are likely to oppose it no matter what. And they will continue up to the referendum. And I think these are the kind of shifts. We see them every 5 years anyway. So when Bernard Okoth says he's a child of the handshake, it is true. There are going to be many more children, but they're also going to be orphans of the handshake. Mm-hmm. And it is clear that those orphans are likely to be led by the deputy president.
All right.